The link between 5-HT3 and vomiting was a process of biological discovery based on, by then I had quite an in-depth knowledge of what metoclopramide would do, based on my own work, which was trying to tease out particular mechanisms, in particular how the compound could stimulate gut movements. And by a series of experiments, I was able to show it had nothing to do with dopamine D2 antagonism, which is what people believed it was. I linked it to 5-HT based on similarity of response to what other people had described for 5-HT. Tried to block it, tried to characterize it, couldn't do it, didn't have enough knowledge or the tools at hand, so published this 5-HT-like receptor that I claim to have discovered within the nervous myenteric plexus of the gut. Published that, and then while I was doing an experiment, another scientist from France, a guy called Joel Bockhart, who I didn't know, phoned me up and said, in his very thick French accent, "We've just found your receptor in the brain." Oh, whoa, in the brain? It's supposed to be in the gut. So it was lovely, and he'd taken my work and reproduced it in mouse brain, and phoned me up out of the blue. I didn't know him. I know him now. And said, "We've just found this. We've discovered the same receptor. Now it's in brain." And he later went on and called it 5-HT4, and the rest is kind of history. Doing that process of trying to understand the actions of metoclopramide, we had to kill the idea that although it was a dopamine D2 receptor antagonist, it had other actions. So the other actions were not due to dopamine. This was one of them. We also realized that the concentrations of metoclopramide that stimulated movements of the gut were a lot lower than the concentrations which others, in particular John Fossard, then in France, were publishing, describing its ability to antagonize at 5-HT3. It was known as 5-HTM receptors in those days. So there was a clear concentration gap. One I could characterize, I knew what it did, or I proposed it, I hypothesized, and we were right. It became 5-HT4. The other kind of lay there until my colleagues, in particular Wes Minor, were undertaking experiments with the ultimate aim of getting a better D2 receptor antagonist than anti-emetic. And he was testing different compounds, testing metoclopramide, testing others, finding effects which were clearly nothing to do with dopamine D2, but clearly effective, clearly acting in some way that was different. It was a possibility they were being effective because they stimulated gut movements, and with hindsight, a 5-HT4 agonist. We couldn't disprove that, but it seemed unlikely.